Southern France, 17,000 years ago, the sun is gone. A small band sits around a fire near the mouth of a cave. The wind moves through the trees outside. A woman stands at the edge of the firelight looking into the dark. Her child has not come back from the river. She does not scream. She does not cry. She listens. Inside her chest, something ancient is already moving, a reflex older than language, older than fire itself. And tonight you still carry it. In a Paleolithic band, a missing person was not an inconvenience. It was a structural collapse. You shared genes with that person. You hunted with them. You slept beside them. They were food, defense, memory, and meaning. When one body vanished from a group of 20, the survival math of the entire band shifted overnight. The work they used to do now fell on someone else. The protection they used to give was gone. The stories they carried, the names they remembered, the routes they knew through the forest, all of it was suddenly at risk of disappearing with them. Most people assume ancient humans grieved disappearance the way we do, quietly, slowly, with time. They didn't. They had something else, something faster, something that still runs inside you every time someone you love doesn't reply. To understand what they did, we have to start with a group we can still watch, the Hadza. The Hadza are hunter-gatherers in northern Tanzania. They live the closest life we have to the one your ancestors lived for 200,000 years. In 2010, the anthropologist Frank Marlowe published a long-form study of how Hadza bands respond when a forager fails to return at dusk. The response is not panic, it is protocol. The band waits, but not passively. Within the first hour, 2 or 3 of the strongest foragers leave camp on foot. They follow the missing person's known route. They call out at intervals using a specific pattern, not random shouting. They stop at named landmarks, trees, ridgelines, dry riverbeds, places the missing person would have passed through. If the search fails by morning, the radius doubles. A second team joins. The camp stays behind, fire kept high, so the missing person can see it from a distance and walk toward the light. This is not improvised, this is a system. And it is almost certainly a system your ancestors used for tens of thousands of years before anyone wrote it down. The Hadza are not a museum of the past, they are not frozen people, but the behaviors they share with bands across the world, from the San in southern Africa to the Aceh in Paraguay, suggest something deep, a shared instinct that predates culture, a search reflex written into the body before it was ever written into law. Now travel deeper into the past. In northern Spain, there is a cave system called Atapuerca. Inside it, at the bottom of a 13-meter vertical shaft, archaeologists found a pit. They called it Sima de los Huesos, the pit of bones. Inside that pit were the remains of at least 28 individuals, members of an early human species called Homo heidelbergensis. They were placed there 430,000 years ago. The paleoanthropologist Juan Luis Arzuaga has spent decades studying the site. His interpretation is careful, but it is staggering. The bodies show no signs of being dragged in by predators. There are no animal bones mixed with them. The shaft was hard to reach, deliberate, hidden. To get a body down there, someone had to carry it through narrow passages in near total darkness, lower it and leave it, then climb back out and do it again. Person by person, across generations. Some of the skulls show signs of healed injuries. These were people who had been cared for in life and then carried in death. One of the skulls, known as cranium 17, shows 2 impact wounds above the left eye, struck with the same object at slightly different angles. The earliest known evidence of one human killing another. And even that one, the victim of violence inside the group, was not abandoned. He was carried down the shaft and placed with the rest. This may be the earliest evidence we have of organized response to a missing band member, not just searching, recovering, bringing the body home, placing it somewhere meaningful away from the world that took it. These were not modern humans, they were not our species, and yet they already could not bear to let one of their own simply disappear. Move forward in time into the mountains of northern Iraq, a cave called Shanidar. Between 1957 and 1961, the archaeologist Ralph Solecki uncovered the remains of 10 Neanderthals inside it. One of them, Shanidar 1, lived to around 40 years old. He was blind in one eye. His right arm had been amputated above the elbow. He had a deformed leg. He could not have hunted. He could not have fled a predator. He could not have survived a single winter on his own. Someone fed him, someone protected him, for years. When he finally died, he was buried, not abandoned, not left where he fell, carried to a chosen spot inside the cave and placed there with care. Another Neanderthal at the same site, Shanidar 4, was surrounded by clusters of pollen from wild flowers: yarrow, cornflower, grape hyacinth. Some researchers debate whether the pollen was placed deliberately or carried in by burrowing animals, but the broader pattern across Shanidar is clear. These were people who searched for their dead, found them, and stayed with them. So now you know what ancient humans actually did when someone went missing. They organized, they tracked, they walked into the dark calling a name. They came back with a body, or they came back with nothing, but they came back. And if they found the missing one too late, they carried them home and they placed them somewhere that mattered. A cave, a pit, a circle of stones, a bed of flowers. Here is the twist. They did not do this only because they loved. They did it because absence itself was the threat. A missing person was a wound in the group's predictive model of reality. The brain that evolved for small band life cannot tolerate the unknown status of someone it bonded with. Not knowing where someone is, whether they are alive, whether they are coming back, is the single most destabilizing state the human mind can occupy. Closure is not a luxury, it is a neurological demand. This is why ancient humans built ritual around disappearance. The search at dusk, the burial in the cave, the placed flowers, the hidden shaft. These were not only expressions of grief, they were tools for ending an open loop the brain could not close on its own. The body recovered said one thing: they are gone and we know it. The body missing said something the nervous system could not survive: they are somewhere and we do not know where. So they searched, not because the dead needed finding, but because the living needed to stop searching. Now look at yourself. You check your phone the moment someone you love does not reply. You refresh the message thread. You read the last message they sent. You scroll up, you scroll down, you set the phone face down and then pick it up again 60 seconds later. In 2003, a neuroscientist at UCLA named Naomi Eisenberger ran a study showing that social rejection, being ignored, being left on read, activates the same brain region as physical pain. The injury is real. Your body is not confused. The same circuit that flinched when an ancestor lost track of her child in the forest is the one that flinches now when a message goes blue and stays unanswered. A missing person case can haunt an entire town for 40 years. A child who never came home from school can hold a whole community in suspended grief for generations. A friend who stopped replying, without a reason, without a goodbye, can occupy a quiet shelf in your mind for the rest of your life. We do not have rituals for unresolved disappearance, and our nervous systems were never designed to live without them. Your ancestors' search reflex never turned off, it just got smaller, lonelier, digital. Every glance at the door, every refresh of the chat, every name that surfaces in your mind for no reason on a quiet evening decades after you last saw them. The classmate who moved away, the cousin who stopped calling, the friend you swore you would stay in touch with and didn't. You do not have a cave to lay them in. You do not have a circle of flowers to leave behind. You do not have a band of foragers walking the ridgeline at dawn calling their name. You have a phone, a blue dot that never turns on, a profile that stopped updating, a thread that ended in the middle of a sentence. And inside you, the search continues, quietly, in a body built for a forest, in a world built for screens. That is the woman at the firelight, still standing in you, still listening for footsteps in the dark. And somewhere deep in your chest, a part of you is still hoping the door opens.